So the Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act, or FOSTA, looks like it's going to come into being. And what it does is it amends one of the most relied upon tenets, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which in large regard says that web purveyors are not responsible for the content that is posted, with some limitation, which is posted by its users. And that's, a fairly big thing. And then you have kind of as a derivative of that, you have DMCA, which provides an immunity for web purveyors as it relates to copyright violations to the extent that they're willing to adhere to a DMCA, which is a takedown notice, which is, of course, a whole nother discussion for a whole nother time. But FOSTA is an abridgment, right? It's an amendment to Section 230. And basically, it is limited to the sort of sex trafficking prostitution ring, right? So you saw Craigslist shut down their personals like this week, right? In response to it, and the president hasn't even signed it yet, but you see that it's expected to pass, right? And basically what it carves out is an exception that says if a web host, web purveyor knowingly, right, allows or acquiesces to the promotion of prostitution or sex trafficking or whatever on their website, they can be held civilly and in some cases criminally liable. And the amendment's very short, right? Like I've read it and it's exceedingly short. It's probably about like 6-7 sentences. And so what you really don't know is like where that responsibility tail sort of ends, right? Because, you've got the website purveyor, you've got the hosting company, you've got, domain registrar, everybody down the line who conceivably in the context that I've fought cases and litigated cases, like can bear like modicums of responsibility, like especially even in the DMCA context. So, you could see where conceivably it's not just the website purveyor, but it's like everybody on down the line could face liability both civilly and criminally. And that's in relation to promoting prostitution. So, the big implication, right? Like obviously, you had the Backpage ordeal, you have like Craigslist, you have, these sites are 100% dedicated to promoting prostitution. But, my concept or my concern, right, is the clients that I represent who are in the camming space, right? Where, it's a bit difficult, especially like if you run a larger camming site, to really control the content that's going out, right? When you've got a multitude of live performers from disparate places, from disparate locales, talking live, like it's conversing live via chat. I mean, it creates this compliance nightmare, because how can you conceivably, right, be sure that you're not promoting or knowingly promoting like something like prostitution? And I think that's a big hit, right? And Section 230 was the premier safe harbor for website purveyor when it came to the content, right? You could facilitate the content and you could allow it to happen. There was like there is a threshold that you sort of have to be wary of. But with FOSTA, this kind of degrades that. And so in the adult space, like what is promoting prostitution? What is like a pattern, and that's like a slippery slope, right? When you look at how these laws are designed and you look at what historical laws regarding promoting prostitution are. So in the cam space, I think there is a massive implication there, because it's so hard to police and you just don't know who's on your site because you have to, right? Like that, but you don't know the content of their speech. You don't know their extracurricular activities. So I think it's a huge hit for freedom of speech in a sense, because I think it has a chilling effect, right? It will have a chilling effect, just like with Craigslist. It has a chilling effect. And, you couldn't even arguably say that Craigslist was knowingly promoting anything, right? And the standard predicate for any law, right, whether it's criminal or civil or regulatory, is intent or knowledge, right? So, like, how are you intending to promote something or knowingly promoting something? Or are you just being negligent? Negligent doesn't cut it. But I think, out of an abundance of caution and out of fear, you're going to see a lot of of entities like scaling back on content, scaling back on what's otherwise free speech, because at a minimum, the civil remedies are like significant, right, for FOSTA violations, should it pass, which I assume it would. So it's tough, and especially with live content, you have to be, I think, the compliance burden that is now being thrust upon, my clients in that space and others in that space who I know very well, it's going to be tough, because you just, how do you really know? And, if it happens once, are you promoting it? Well, by legal definition, no. If it happens 6-7 times, is that promoting it, or are you being just negligent? And that's where you get into this legal gray area. And by the time you sort it out, right, you just think of the mechanics of a lawsuit. By the time you sort out getting sued, let's just say in a civil context alone, for damages of like $25,000 plus, to defend it, it'll cost you more than that, So are you going to take this hit, out of the construct of being right, which I get it, but it's a tough deal, and I don't think constitutionally there's some issues with it, but it takes cases and it takes courts years to kind of get to that argument stage where it could redefine or strike down a law. But for the time being, I think, like especially live chat, I think that's a significant issue coming down the pipeline, because the promotion of prostitution is arguably a very, very low bar when you look at, especially from the state level, which a lot of this is drawn from. It's a very low bar when they go to sort of prove that. So if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. Happy to discuss. I'm Adam Tracy, at@tracyfirm.com, or Tracy Firm, TRACYFAR.com, my website. Check it out. Check me out. We'll talk about it. All right. Talk to you.